5 disturbing winter horror stories. 1. The last train through Black Hollow. Snow started falling 3 days before Christmas. At first, people in the mountain town of Black Hollow welcomed it. Thick white flakes covered the rooftops, the pine trees, and the frozen roads. Children laughed in the streets, while old men drank coffee beside frosted windows. But by the second night, the power went out. By the third, nobody could leave. The roads disappeared under walls of snow. Phone lines snapped, the radio stations turned to static, and then the train whistles started. Mara Whitlock heard the first whistle at exactly 13 a.m. She sat upright in bed, heart pounding. Black Hollow hadn't had a train station in almost 40 years. The tracks had been abandoned after a derailment killed 37 people during a blizzard in 1982. Since then, the station rotted at the edge of town like a corpse nobody wanted to bury. Yet the whistle screamed again, but long. Mournful. Close. Mara grabbed her flashlight and looked outside. Snow drifted violently beneath the moonlight. Then she saw it, far beyond the trees, a light moving slowly through the storm. The next morning, 3 people were missing. Old Mrs. Bennett from Willow Street, a mechanic named Joel Turner, and a 10-year-old boy named Eric Lawson. No footprints led away from their homes, only strange tracks in the snow. Parallel lines, like railroad tracks. Sheriff Dalton tried calming everyone down, probably wandered out during the storm, he said. Nobody believed him. That night, the whistle returned. Mara couldn't sleep. Something about the sound felt wrong. Not loud. Not distant, but hungry. At 13 a.m. She put on her coat and followed the noise. The storm clawed at her face as she walked toward the abandoned station. The deeper she went into the woods, the quieter everything became. No wind. No animals. Nothing. Then she saw the tracks. Fresh steel rails buried beneath the snow. Impossible. Her flashlight shook. The tracks led directly toward the station, and standing beside them were people. Dozens of them. Silent figures in old winter clothing, their skin pale blue, their eyes completely black. Mara froze. One of them slowly turned toward her. It was Mrs. Bennett, except her jaw hung unnaturally low. As though something inside her face had broken. Then the whistle screamed again. A train emerged from the darkness. Black. Ancient. Covered in ice. Its windows glowed faint yellow. Inside, silhouettes moved behind the glass. Some were human. Some were not. The train stopped. The doors opened. And every frozen figure turned toward Mara, waiting. Inviting. A conductor stepped down onto the snow. He was impossibly tall, his face hidden beneath a frost-covered hat. Final boarding. He whispered. Mara backed away. The conductor tilted his head. You were expected. Then the dead townspeople started walking toward her. Not fast. Slow. Dragging. Like puppets pulled by invisible strings. Mara ran. Branches tore at her coat. Behind her, she heard the sound of metal wheels grinding across tracks. The train was following her. She burst back into town screaming. Lights turned on. Doors opened. But nobody saw the train. Nobody except Mara. Sheriff Dalton locked her in a holding cell until morning. At dawn, they found the sheriff dead, frozen solid. His mouth packed with black snow. The cell door stood open. Mara was gone. So were 12 others. That evening, the storm finally ended. Rescue teams arrived. Roads reopened. The town survived. Mostly. But every winter, residents still hear the whistle. And on the coldest nights, railroad tracks appear in the snow. Fresh. Waiting. Some say, if you follow them far enough, you'll find the train station again. Others say the train never left. It's simply circling the mountains. Searching. Looking for passengers. And if you ever hear the conductor whisper your name during a blizzard, don't answer, because the last train through Black Hollow reaches its destination. It only collects souls. Too. The thing beneath the ice lake Evermore froze faster than usual. That winter. By mid-November, the entire surface looked like solid glass stretching endlessly beneath the grey sky. The locals loved it. Ice fishing, skating, snowmobiles. Nobody questioned why the ice seemed darker than normal. or why strange shapes moved beneath it. Nathan Briggs noticed first. He worked alone at the ranger station and their lake. At night, he often walked the shoreline, checking for stranded hikers. One evening, he spotted something beneath the frozen surface. A face. Pale. Human. Floating just below the ice. Nathan dropped to his knees. The face stared upward with wide frozen eyes. Then it smiled. Nathan stumbled backward. The face vanished instantly into the darkness below. The next morning, a teenage boy named Lucas went missing, while ice fishing. Search teams found his equipment abandoned near the center of the lake. No hole. No blood. No footprints leading away, just a long crack in the ice. That night, Nathan heard knocking. 3 slow taps against his cabin door. He opened it. Nobody there. Then the knocking came again. From beneath the floorboards. Nathan grabbed his rifle. The wood beneath his feet creaked. A wet voice whispered, "Cold." The floor suddenly bulged upward. Nathan fired. The cabin fell silent. In the morning, he found water poured across the floor, and a handprint pressed from underneath the ice coating the windows. More disappearances followed. A married couple, a snowmobile, a 2 hunters. All vanished near the lake. The town blamed thin ice. Nathan knew better. He began researching local history. That's when he discovered the old records. In 1911, an entire church congregation drowned in Lake Evermar after the ice collapsed during a winter crossing. 43 people. None of the bodies were recovered. The survivors claimed something had pulled them downward. Something alive beneath the lake. The reports were dismissed as hysteria. Until now. One stormy evening, Nathan drove onto the frozen lake alone. He carried flares, rope, and a chainsaw. The ice groaned beneath his boots. Far below him, shapes moved. Dozens of them. Human forms, drifting silently under the surface. Then all at once, they stopped and looked up. Nathan's blood turned to ice. Every face beneath him opened its mouth. The ice cracked. A massive fissure shot outward beneath his feet. Black water exploded upward. Hands emerged. Grey. Bloated. To many fingers. They grabbed his legs. Nathan screamed and hacked at them with the chainsaw. One hand tore free, but another gripped his ankle. Then he saw it rising beneath the ice. Not human. Enormous. A shape larger than a whale. Covered in pale faces fused into its flesh. Eyes blinking across its body. Mouths whispering from beneath the water, "Join us." The creature rammed the underside of the ice. The lake shattered. Nathan plunged into freezing darkness. Something wrapped around him immediately. Slimy. Cold. Alive. As he sank deeper, he saw hundreds of bodies suspended below. Still moving, still conscious. Eyes open. Watching. Waiting. Nathan somehow escaped. Nobody believes his story. The authorities closed Lake Evermar after another series of disappearances. Today, the lake remains abandoned. No boats. No fishing. No tourists. Yet every winter, the ice still forms. And if you stand quietly near the shore at night, you can hear knocking beneath the surface. 3 slow taps. As though something trapped below wants to come out. 3. Snowfall at Hollow Creek Orphanage. The orphanage stood alone at the edge of Hollow Creek Forest. Tall. Silent. Buried beneath endless snow. Most people avoided it. The building had closed decades earlier after a fire killed nearly every child inside. Official reports blamed faulty wiring. But the locals told different stories. Stories about screaming heard beneath the snow. Stories about children appearing in the woods during blizzards. Stories about the caretaker who never left. Emma Carter didn't believe ghost stories. She was a documentary filmmaker searching for material during winter break. When she heard about Hollow Creek Orphanage, she rented equipment, packed supplies, and drove through the mountains alone. By the time she arrived, heavy snow covered the road behind her. The orphanage loomed ahead like a frozen tomb. Its windows black, its doors hanging open. Emma smiled nervously into the camera. "Day 1, she whispered. "Let's see if the legends are true." Inside, the air smelled like mold, and ash. Long hallways stretched into darkness. Children's toys lay scattered across the floor. Tiny shoes, broken dolls, a rusted wheelchair. Emma explored 4 hours. Nothing happened until nightfall. At exactly midnight, she heard singing. Soft. Childlike. Coming from upstairs. Emma followed the sound with her camera shaking in her hands. The second floor hallway was lined with old bedrooms. Every door stood open. Every room empty. Yet the singing continued. A lullaby. Then she noticed footprints. Small wet footprints crossing the dusty floor. Fresh. Emma swallowed hard. Hello. The singing stopped instantly. Silence crushed the hallway. Then one door slowly creaked shut by itself. Emma approached carefully. Her flashlight flickered. Inside the room sat 6 children, perfectly still, facing the wall. Emma froze. The children wore old-fashioned clothing, burned black around the edges. Smoke drifted from their skin. One child slowly turned her head. Her face was charred beyond recognition. Except for her eyes. Bright. Wet. Alive. Did you come to stay? She asked. Emma ran. The hallway behind her filled with laughter. Children's laughter. Too loud. To many voices. Doors slammed violently as she sprinted downstairs. The front entrance was gone. Only a brick wall remained where the exit had been. Emma panicked. The temperature dropped rapidly. Her breath filled the air. Then she heard footsteps above her. Heavy. Slow. Not children. The caretaker emerged from the darkness. A towering man in scorched overalls. His skin melted against his skull. His empty eye sockets leaking black liquid. He dragged a shovel behind him. You woke me. He rasped. Emma backed away. What do you want? The caretaker smiled. H.